On the eve of the LA Kings opening training camp, we look at a burning question for each member of the team, and the Kings have a major announcement scheduled for Thursday. What is it? We'll play the speculation game and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. I'm also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly NHL recap show during the season, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. The countdown to the NHL season is on. We are 4 days away from the Kings preseason opener in Ontario against the Ducks, 20 days away from the Kings season opener, October 7th at home against the Colorado Avalanche, and 1 day away from the LA Kings opening up training camp. It's not going to be in Australia. It's not going to be in Quebec. The LA Kings will be on their practice ice in the El Segundo at the Toyota Sports Performance Center Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. as training camp gets underway. We'll have the schedule for training camp over the next few days for those of you that might be interested in checking it out for yourself. We'll do that at the end of the show. But we start with some major news. The LA Kings put out a press release on Wednesday saying that there will be a major announcement made on Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. So what could this major announcement be? Well, it seems likely that there are only two choices to me. One of them is that Adrian Kempe has signed a contract extension, and the other is that Anze Kopitar is announcing this will be his final season in the NHL. I'm hoping it's the Kempe news, but I feel relatively sure it's the Kopitar news. So we're not going to get too deep into it right now. I will be shocked if it's anything other than one of those two things. I guess I'll quickly kind of get into it a little bit, but to me, if it was the Kempe news, I feel like we would have heard about it. Those contracts usually leak out. You know, Elliot Friedman, Frank Seravalli, Pierre LeBrun, somebody leaks out usually before the official announcement that a contract's been agreed to. The Kopitar news is a little bit surprising because, as I've said all along, I didn't think he was sure, and he has said, he was going to wait till the end of the season. But I'm kind of glad if it is actually Kopitar news. Not that he's going to call it a career. I'm not happy about that. But I almost feel like he's deserving of kind of a farewell tour because he's kind of flown under the radar for most of the country and Canada as far as other cities. I think they know of him. I think they think he's good, but I really don't think he gets the due and the praise and the respect from fans across the NHL than he probably deserves. He definitely gets it from his opponents, and certainly other coaches and general managers know how great he's been. But I don't know that he's not flashy. He's never really said anything in the media to get people's attention. He just does his job very well, year in, year out, and kind of goes about his business, pretty quiet about it. So if maybe somehow he gets the farewell tour and every stop he goes to, he kind of gets the congratulations on a great career. And I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like he definitely deserves that. But like I said, I'm hoping that's not the news. I think it is, but I'm hoping that's not the news. I'm hoping it's the Adrian Kempe contract, and Anze still hasn't decided whether he'll call it a career after this season or not. But I'm leaning towards that's probably what it is. We'll find out tomorrow, and we'll certainly talk about it on our next show. So we are on the eve of training camp, and I thought I would give a burning question for each player on the roster that's either expected to make the opening roster or is competing for a spot. on the opening night roster. So let's get right into it, and we will start at the top with the captain, Anze Kopitar, entering his 20th season, all with the Kings. He's just 29 points away from passing Marcel Dion and becoming the LA Kings all-time leading scorer. The burning question is obviously, is this his last NHL season? And we may have the answer to that coming up on Thursday. Now, he is going into the final year of his contract. He's already admitted this could be it. If this is it, he will go down as one of the, if not the greatest player in LA Kings history, the greatest LA King of them all. And, you know, you have to wonder if that announcement is made. And we'll talk more about it on our next show, but certainly he wants to go out on his own terms. He would like to go out on top if he can, or at least in a good place. And I wonder about his teammates and how they might use this as motivation to kind of, you know, do it for Kopi this year. We'll see. But again, that's the question. That's the burning question for Anze Kopitar. If in fact this is going to be his final year. For Adrian Kempe, entering his 10th season in the NHL, all with the Kings, the burning question is also pretty obvious. Will he be an LA King beyond the season? When will he sign his contract extension? Now, hopefully, he's already signed it, and the news coming up on Thursday is the announcement of that. I don't think that's what it is, but I'm hoping that's what it is. But of course, he, like Kopitar, is in the final year of his contract. And hopefully the question gets answered soon, because we don't want the question to turn into, what are the Kings going to do if they can't come to common ground with Adrian Kempe? Are they going to trade him before the trade deadline? I mean, I don't even want to ask those questions. I don't even want to put those questions out there. So hopefully the question of when is he going to sign his contract extension will be answered here soon. If you're wondering, he does have a 10-team no-trade list, so he doesn't have a no-trade clause. He could be traded if the Kings decide to do that, if the worst-case scenario, and you know, he doesn't have to necessarily walk for nothing. But for the Kings, who think of themselves as Stanley Cup contenders in some respect, trading your best player at the deadline and probably not getting equal or fair value in return almost certainly would be awful. So let's hope that question gets answered positively very soon. Andrei Kuzmenko is entering his 4th NHL season, but his first full season with the LA Kings. The burning question for him is, the player that we saw for 28 games last year, is that the real Andrei Kuzmenko? Or is it the kind of inconsistent flash here, flash there, kind of bounce around the league player he's been so far? This is his 4th team in the NHL. He's had some nice moments. He's had a couple of good seasons. Certainly seemed like a great fit on the Kings top line with Kopitar and Kempe. Certainly helped the struggling power play. Those 26 games he played, that includes playoff games, he had 8 goals, 15 assists for 23 points. So if he can give something close to that for a full season, the Kings top line obviously will be much better than it was a year ago, and the Kings forward group will be better than it was a year ago. For Quinton Byfield, the burning question is pretty obvious. Can he take the next step and turn into a star player for the LA Kings, or at least on the trajectory for being that star player, that elite player? He's entering his 5th full NHL season. He's certainly shown flashes of brilliance, and he certainly made a pretty smooth transition from wing to center last year. He is now anchoring that second line, and he's ready to take the baton from Anze Kopitar, you would think, once Kopitar calls it a career, and Byfield's looking at being the number 1 center for the LA Kings for many years to come. 23 goals, 54 points a year ago. Looking to see him take a step forward numbers-wise, and again, at least be close to being on the cusp of being a star player in this league. For Kevin Fiala, I think the burning question is, will we see good Kevin for most of the year? Last year, Fiala started off slow. He was forcing things. He was taking bad penalties. But later in the year, he cleaned that up, started to become a smarter player, a more effective player. He did tie for the team lead in goals with Adrian Kempe with 35. That was a career high, so that was good. but his assist and points numbers were down. If he can play the way he played over the second half for most of the season, those numbers will go up. We'll have a much more consistent and dangerous Kevin Fiala, and hopefully he can continue to have that chemistry with Quentin Byfield and really have that second line kind of be a 1A, 1B type of a line with the Kopitar line. And kind of the same goes for Alex Laferriere, now entering his third season. Unlike Fiala, Laferriere got off to a red-hot start and then went ice cold as the season went along. Still, he posted career highs in goals with 19, assists with 23, and points with 42. The burning question, though, for Laffy is, can he, be the consistent performer and take that next step as well? He doesn't necessarily need to be one of the stars of the team. He's still just 23, and to be playing a top 6 role on a good NHL team for a guy like Laferriere is quite an accomplishment. He should be proud of that. But he also, if he can take a little bit of a step forward as well, be more consistent throughout the season, get off to a good start and carry it over the rest of the year, then that will just make that top 6 so much better and so much more dangerous going forward. Even though you could argue there's not a superstar on either of those top 2 lines, guys like Byfield and Kempe and Fiala, they're very dangerous players. And when they're at the best, when they're being consistent, they are very, very good forwards. All right, we'll look at the Kings' bottom 6 forwards coming up next. And I think one of those players in the bottom 6 is going to have a pretty good bounce back year. We'll talk about that next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com. You'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. We are continuing our look at the LA Kings roster ahead of the opening of training camp and burning questions for each of the players on the Kings roster. Phillip Danault will be centering the third line, entering his 12th NHL season, 5th with the Kings. The burning question for Danault is, can he pick up his offense and averaged what he's been with the LA Kings before last season? Now, he's not relied on to be a goal scorer, but his goal scoring did drop off pretty significantly last year. His previous 3 years with the Kings, he averaged 20 goals per year, but managed just 8 last season. He did have 43 points. That was down a little bit as far as his point total, but not as dramatic as his goal numbers. So hopefully he can pick up those numbers. We saw him in the playoffs really pick up his game. He was one of the better Kings forwards in the postseason. So when he's on his game, he can be a very effective player. And hopefully we'll see more of that Phillip Danault this coming season. For Warren Foegele, entering his second season in LA, 9th NHL season overall, the burning question is, can he keep doing what he's doing? Each of the last 3 seasons, he has posted career highs in goals, assists, and points. If he can come close to his numbers from a year ago, 24 goals, 46 points, I think we'll all be very, very happy with that. If he can improve on that, that's even better and can make that forward group even that more formidable. I love his energy. I love his passion. He's a guy who shows up night in and night out, and he's productive as well. Hopefully he can set career highs again for a 4th straight season. That would be pretty amazing. As for Trevor Moore, the burning question is, can he bounce back from what was not a very good season? And I know there's been some talk about the Thousand Oaks native maybe being on the trade block, that he had that career year with the 31 goals year before last, and he'll never approach something like that again. Maybe not, but he's going into his 8th season, 7th in LA, just 18 goals last year, 40 points. He had 57 points the year before with the 31 goals. He needs to be better. I think he will be better. He really came on at the end of last season and looked a lot more like the Trevor Moore we're used to. He may not hit 30 again, but I could see him getting 24, 25 goals, close to 50 points. I really think Trevor Moore is going to have a bounce back year and give the LA Kings, again, maybe no superstars in that forward group, but some really solid weapons that can all chip in. And hopefully that collective group of talent can kind of make up for maybe not having those one or two superstars. Talking about the fourth line, we did that a lot on our previous show. Obviously, for Corey Perry, the question is at the moment, how long is he going to be out? And then how quickly can he get back in the lineup and get up to speed? His 21st season coming up in the NHL, first with the Kings. We all know he's out the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. I think Perry, he knows his body. He's rehabbed injuries before, although he's been very durable throughout his career. It's not the first time he's had to miss some games due to injury. I think he knows how to handle this. I'm sure mentally he's going to be really, chomping at the bit to get out there on the ice. Look, he's, the knee injury, it seems relatively minor, all things considered. And it's not like his game is predicated on being a speed burner. He'll get back out there and he will not be shy at all about mixing it up, going to the net and being that player that we all expect to see from him once he finally does join the team. For Joel Armia, burning question, how does he fit in with his new team and his new teammates? It's a fourth line role, so they're not going to be expecting a ton out of him. But Armia is going into his 12th NHL season, 11 goals, 29 points last year in Montreal. He just needs to be that experienced player that does all those little things that hopefully add up to big things at the end of the year. He's a solid defensive player. He should be really good on the penalty kill and all those things. It's not sexy, but it all adds up at the end of the year. These guys all doing their part, making the Kings just a little bit better, and hopefully it results in what we all want at the most important part of the season, and that's some success in the playoffs. For Alex Turcotte, the question right now is, where exactly does he slot in the lineup? Now, he's, we think, going to fill in for the injured Corey Perry, but that's still to be determined for sure. But I imagine that he will be the fourth line center once Perry returns. But again, that's a burning question. Where does he fit in the lineup? Turcotte's going into his second full NHL season, and he just needs to find a regular spot where he can figure out what his role is and be able to do his thing over a full season. Is he going to get that opportunity this year? I think so. We have to see. 5th overall pick in 2019. Obviously, the Kings at least need to get a solid bottom 6 forward that can play regularly eventually from Alex Turcotte, and hopefully that starts this season. For Samuel Hellenius, burning question, maybe there's a couple of them. Can he prove he's a full-time NHL player? Ahead of schedule a year ago, kind of opportunity found him a chance to get at the NHL level a lot sooner than a lot of people thought he would. Can he now, after having a taste of NHL experience, take another step and show he kind of belongs? Nothing should be much of a surprise to him anymore. And I think more importantly, can he be that physical presence that the Kings lost when Tanner Jeannot left? He's 6'6", 200, and needs to be that player that the other team kind of looks over their shoulder at. I mean, a guy that size bearing down on you on a forecheck, that's intimidating. So hopefully, again, he got the taste of the NHL with 50 games last year, can know what to expect, and be more, I guess, proactive than reactive. And again, provide a physical presence for the LA Kings. I think if Samuel Hellenius can do that, then he can find a role in the Kings lineup. All right, up next, we'll look at some burning questions for the Kings defense and goaltending. We'll do that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you want to bet, player props, build a same-game parlay, or even jump in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye out on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday or your Thursday or your Monday. So if you are ready to play, Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, time to ask some burning questions about the LA Kings defense and goaltending. And on the defense, we will start, of course, with the veteran Drew Doughty. And for me, the burning question, I guess it's kind of to the coaching staff and to Drew Doughty. Will he see a bit of a lesser role while still being counted on to be a key piece of this LA Kings defense? You would think that it's time for Brandt Clarke and even Cody Ceci as a veteran guy to maybe get more minutes this season. Now, Drew Doughty is going into his 18th season, all with the Kings. He has consistently led the Kings in time on ice. He's consistently been amongst the time on ice leaders across the NHL year in and year out. He plays a lot. He wants to play a lot. He plays in all situations, but I think it's time to reduce those minutes at least somewhat. He's 36 years old. He's coming off a major injury a year ago, just 30 games last year. He still averaged over 24 minutes per game last season. That was 17th most in the entire NHL. Is he still the Kings' top defenseman? Yes. Is he still clearly on the top pairing on the right side? Yes. But I don't think it's a slight to him to cut back on his minutes a little bit. I think it could benefit him, and I think it could benefit the team for him not to be out there so much. And maybe he's got a little bit more left in the tank at the end of the season. I'm not suggesting he didn't have anything left in the playoffs, but it's just, I think, we saw in the playoffs last year about distribution of minutes and how that can be something that's important. And hopefully with the depth that the Kings have now on their fourth line and on their third pairing on defense, it benefits the entire roster. So we'll see if that's a part of it as well. I think that's a burning question when it comes to Drew Doughty. For Mikey Anderson, burning question for Mikey. Can he just keep doing what he's always done? I guess. He's just so reliable. Defensive first shutdown type defenseman. He's going into his 6th full season. Seems like he's been around longer than that. All with the Kings, of course. Certainly not flashy, not spectacular. He's vanilla ice cream, but when you want something hot, cold on a hot day, it's still pretty darn good. So hopefully he just goes out there and continues to do what he's always done, and I have no doubt that he will. For young defenseman Brandt Clarke, burning question is obviously, will he get a chance to have a bigger role with the Kings? I think he's going to be on that second pairing. I've said it before. If he's on the third pairing, I know I will be very disgruntled about that. I think it's time that the former 8th overall pick in 2021 gets an opportunity to show what he can do. Now, that's somewhat out of his hands. The coaching staff has to agree that he's ready for that. I think he is. I hope they think he is as well. At least give him a chance to show what he can do. If he doesn't handle it well, if he doesn't perform up to expectations, you can always drop him down to the third pairing and say, we'll try it again next year to give you more of a role. But I really think he deserves the opportunity to show the special skills that, was a factor in why the Kings drafted him where they drafted him. That was a factor, I believe, in them choosing to trade Brock Faber because they wanted room for Brandt Clarke. So you've done all these things to set him up to succeed. And I get, wanting to see him be reliable defensively, which I thought he did. He showed well enough last year. Now it's time to let him go a little bit. Take the training wheels off and let Brandt Clarke be Brandt Clarke, I hope. For Brian Dumoulin, burning question, kind of like Joel Armia, fitting in with your new teammates, and I think still being an effective second pairing defenseman. Now, that's not set in stone. Some people think he's on the third pairing and Joel Edmondson was the second pairing. I think it's Dumoulin on the second pairing, and he'll be in the lineup replacing Vladislav Gavrikov, but he's not. No one should expect him to be what Gavrikov was a year ago, which was the Kings' best defenseman. But Dumoulin is steady. He has a wealth of experience. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. I think he's a good fit for what the Kings do. I thought he was really, really good in the playoffs last spring, New Jersey, in the postseason for them, and just continuing to be that solid, reliable defenseman for the Kings. Cody Ceci, I think the burning question for him is, can he prove a lot of people wrong? There was a lot of noise when the LA Kings signed Cody Ceci. A lot of it was over the contract, 4 years, $4.5 million. It's an overpayment. There's no doubt about that. But as far as what he can do on the ice, big, strong guy, tons of experience, 106 playoff games for Cody Ceci. That's more than Anze Kopitar. That's more than Drew Doughty. So, I hope he's on the third pairing. He could, though, slot in on the second pairing. We'll see. Either way, again, veteran guy, good size, has a lot of experience in the postseason. Hopefully, in the end, he makes that decor a little bit better, and that could be a difference in winning a playoff series and going forward. For the goaltenders, pretty simple burning question for Darcy Kemper. Can he do what he did last year again? Going into his 13th NHL season, his third year with the Kings in 2 separate stints. He was one of the best goalies in the NHL last season, a Vezina Trophy finalist. Of course, he's playing behind a still a very solid defensive team. I doubt he'll be a Vezina Trophy finalist again, but I still think he could be one of the top goalies in the NHL. I think he can be the top goalie in the Pacific Division. So maybe not quite as good of a year for Darcy Kemper, but I still think he can be a very, very good goalie for the LA Kings. And finally, the new backup goalie, Anton Forsberg. Burning question for him. Will he be better than David Riddick was a year ago? And frankly, that's not asking a lot. Forsberg has played 5 full NHL seasons. Obviously, his first with LA. He's the clear number 2. And him outperforming David Riddick shouldn't be too hard. Now, last year in Ottawa, Forsberg did have a losing record, 11, 12, and 3. But he did have 3 shutouts. Riddick didn't have any. His goals against average is better than Riddick's was a year ago. From last year, Forsberg was at 2.72. Riddick was 2.84. Save percentage was better for Forsberg, 901 to Riddick's 886. And that was not playing behind a strong defensive team the way Riddick was. So I'm pretty confident in Anton Forsberg being a better number 2, but obviously he has to go out and prove it with the LA Kings. And one final burning question, and that's for head coach Jim Hiller. Will he learn from last year's playoff mistakes, take that knowledge forward, and be a better coach for it? We shall see. So there you have it. A quick look at the burning questions for each of the important players of note for the LA Kings going into training camp, which opens up on Thursday. Now, if you're looking to attend training camp for the Kings on Thursday, here's the schedule. Group A will practice at 9:30 a.m. in El Segundo. Group B will practice at 10:30 a.m. There'll be a scrimmage at 11:15 between groups B and C, and then Group C will have a practice at 12:30. The schedule on Friday and Saturday is the same. The groups will be different, but they will start at 9:30 a.m. Also on Friday and Saturday, they will have another practice at 10:30, a scrimmage at 10:15, and then another practice at 12:30. So that is the schedule for the opening of Kings training camp coming up on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll be out there. If you want to say hi, please feel free to come up and say hello. I'd love to meet you. Obviously, tomorrow's show will be all about reacting to the major announcement by the LA Kings and also reacting to what we saw in the opening of training camp, probably hearing from some of the players and reacting to what they have to say about the upcoming season, and probably reacting to that major announcement as well. All right, for you everydayers, those you listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, you've got a chance to chime in at the end of the week with our fan feedback show. If you've got any opinions on today's show where we had the burning question for each player, you can send an email to lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, and you can always, if you're watching on YouTube, put your comments in the comments section. We'd love for you to stay interactive with the show by following us on X, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at Locked On LA Kings. If you're interested in some extra LA Kings content, you can shoot me an email at lakingsextra@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to pass along that information. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.